This is
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas Eve. It is the 24th, and this is the 24th episode, so perfect timing.
Exactly. Merry Christmas Eve. It's Scary Christmas. We know it's Kathy's favorite segment of the whole season.
Yeah.
We're playing the Inpatient, which is the Until Dawn prequel, and also the first VR game we've done. And also because it's VR, I had to record it in a different way, so gameplay is not as high of quality. Now that we're like 2 minutes into the episode, should we do the out of context summary?
Yeah, let's go.
First of all, Lil Stewie's back. Remember Lil Stewie? Last year's Scary Christmas?
The rat?
Yeah, the rat.
Oh, yeah.
Also, the elk just won't quit. I don't know what is with elk in these games. And Suzanne's kind of a little bit. Thank you for coming back from our replay reviews. My name is Leah.
And my name is Kathy.
We are two friends who are here to replay, review, and analyze your favorite video games. And since Kathy has never seen the games before, it helps me view them through her fresh eyes, almost like I'm discovering them again for the first time.
We hope it'll be a similar experience for you.
So we're seemingly a patient of some kind. We are tested on our memories by a doctor. He says, we're trying to help you. Once you've recovered, you're free to leave. We then flash into one of our memories. We seem to be hiding in a supply closet. There's a calendar on the wall that says January 14th, 1952. And then it seems like somebody finds us hiding in there.
This doctor, well, he reminds me of the therapist. I don't like how close he leans into us. And he freaks me out. Like, at this point, I feel like I have trust issues with any types of medical professionals.
It's fair in a horror game. Ugh, and playing this in VR, when he leans in, like, you can't see the whole field of vision in the gameplay, like you can in the headset. He also grabs our arm, and it's just like, ugh, like, I feel like I can smell his breath. It's just nasty. Okay, so we do this a couple times where we try to recall our memories, but at some point he says something muffled, and then appears to be completely successful. So I don't know what they're trying to do to us, but I guess it was successful.
I don't like that either. And it also looks like at one point he injects us with something, like with the needle. And
yeah, right in the leg.
Yeah. And so I don't know what's going on. I almost feel like he's experimenting, like he'll do something and then he'll like wash your memories, and then that's why he's prompting us again. My feeling is that he knows what the truth is happening and like knows what the memories are, and he's just seeing that, like, how much do I need to brainwash us again?
Yeah, he does like walk away somewhere whenever we're accessing the memories, and then walks back. And then there's also a second person in the room who he calls doctor and tells him to like make a note. We don't really see him, we can't really identify who he is, but after the 3 attempts, we're done with treatment for the day, and an orderly comes to collect us. He says to us something along the lines of, that old Bragg loves to break his toys, or whatever. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we now know that this is Jefferson Bragg, who we've heard mentioned quite a bit in Until Dawn and all the documents.
That's not what I thought he would look like or anything, but I was like, oh, a connection.
But yeah, so the orderly's taking us to our room, and on the way, we hear someone, I'm assuming a patient, screaming. He says it comes when it's dark. What comes when it's dark, Gabby?
The wall rider.
The wall rider, exactly. Okay, so before we get to our room, this female nurse walks by, and the orderly tries to talk to her, and she just flat out ignores him and keeps walking. It's so rude.
Mm-hmm. I get he's probably not her type, but still, I would never do that to a coworker of just ignoring them like that.
The orderly delivers us to our room, and we go to sleep. Anything before scene 2?
Mm-mm.
We wake up the next morning, and I think maybe this is when we learn that his name, the orderly's name, is Abe. He arrives to check in on us, and while doing so, he leaves some notes, which of course we read. And it has Abe and Suzanne date ideas written on it, which...
Okay.
Awkward. And then on the back, there's just some names and some notes on how they're feeling their attitudes. But in looking at this document, it seems to spur on a flashback of sorts where we see a to-do list for Tuesday. It says laundry, move equipment, visit patients. But the most important part of the flashback is that we see another nurse. I don't know if she's a nurse or an orderly, but her name is Victoria. And she's crying while making a bed in the room, the cell.
I'm so confused. At this point, I'm like confused because of the timing. I also don't know if the nurse is crying because someone died and she misses that person, or if she was hurt because of someone and she's crying because she's in pain.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression that she was sad about something. But after the flashback, we're back in our room with Abe. As we're talking to him, we hear a disruption. There's like weird sounds, and this leads to Abe being called out to help. And not long after, he returns looking for his notes, which we admit that we read. But he's not too mad about it. Although he says curiosity killed the cat. It's kind of ominous in a way, the way he said it.
And he doesn't blink.
He doesn't blink. Anyway, kind of felt like a little bit of a threat. And then it's lights out, and we enter what may be a dream. We follow Abe through the hall. He jump scares the heck out of us.
Yeah.
And then he speaks another language at like 1634. And I'm an idiot. I forgot to turn subtitles on in this game. And so I like wrote down what I thought it was, and then I researched what were the tribes mentioned in Until Dawn. What is this in Cree? And I'm trying to find like the Cree alphabet and the Cree language. And then today I'm like, I am a dumb ass. I can just find someone else's playthrough that had subtitles. Which is what I did, and then I just searched the subtitles. And immediately I found out what it says. He says, "Hey you, just follow me." And then later he's like, "Stay with me." So he's leading us somewhere. It wasn't as interesting as I had hoped it would be. But now you know.
But you went down a massive rabbit hole.
It was such a waste of time. And then, yeah, later on he says something else, and what I'm assuming is Cree. But then we hear a second, deeper voice talking along with him.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I was thinking like, oh, is it a Wendigo? But I don't think Wendigos talk, do they?
We know they can imitate.
Yeah.
I think to a point they can. Kind of like a parrot, maybe?
Okay.
Anyway, we try to keep following Abe, but then a gate slams down in front of us. We wake up the next morning. Anything else on scene 2?
Mm-mm.
So now the next day, Victoria brings us food and talks to us while we hear someone shouting outside of our room, "You can't do this to me." I don't like what I'm hearing.
Yeah, nothing good seems to be happening outside of this room.
But Victoria's so calm about it. Honestly, they do a good job with Victoria and Abe in this game. Because I trust them. And I don't know if I should. But they're so calm and comforting.
I get what you're saying. On the other hand, for me, I'm like, how much empathy have they lost during this period of time when they worked here to the point where they aren't bothered by other people's pain and fear?
Well, we also don't know, like, what's Bragg telling them? Do they even really fully know what's going on? Or do they think... You know what I mean? Like, are they accomplices or are they innocent and just naive? Now we get to know our new roommate. He says that he's also here for amnesia, but then says that he doesn't actually have amnesia and they're just messing with his head.
And it also sounded like he wasn't here voluntarily, that he was forced here.
I don't know what's going on with him, but his name's Gordon.
Okay.
And then he takes a nap. We look at the calendar. It appears to be February 9th, 1952. We also find a leaf stuck to our window, which when we stare into that, we have another flashback. In it, we see Victoria is looking at the calendar saying,
January 29th. February's almost upon us. It's a leap year. We'll have a whole extra day. Who knows how we'll spend it? They always said you can do things on a leap day you can't on any other. Like, a woman proposing to a man. Is that crazy?
Is she in love with the patient?
Wait, was Victoria the one who was crying? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe she was in love with the patient and then he died or something happened to him.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling like happened. Anything before we take a nap and wake up to Gordon?
No, but I did notice that Gordon doesn't really blink.
I don't like Gordon. Gordon is...
I think he's there so we can eat him.
he's iffy. We wake up to Gordon asking us if we're okay. He says that we were shaking the sheets, which I guess means we were having a nightmare. And this is when I again look at the calendar and it looks like it's still the same day, the 9th. And then we look out of our cell and see Abe trying to get Suzanne's attention again, and she still completely ignores him.
What did Abe do to her?
We then wake up the next day to see an aggressive Gordon asking Victoria when he's going to be let out. She says, Bragg wants you here just a little bit longer, and he responds, you tell Bragg I'm done. Reactions to this, it almost sounds like he's here by his own choice, even though he said he wasn't. Can you just ask to be let out of a sanatorium?
Well, I don't understand how he got here first, though. It's like,
Yeah.
if he chose to come in here, didn't he know that the consequences is that he might not be able to leave whenever he wants to? Or was he forced in here or kidnapped in? I don't understand why he's here and how he got here and why he can't leave.
So we hear more yelling and banging, and this time an alarm goes off as well. Another peek at the calendar still shows the 9th, so maybe we're just not crossing days off anymore, or this is one really long day. Our character and Gordon, they start talking again. The weird noises that we heard that we're discussing, we say, sounds like something I dreamt, and Gordon says, yeah, that makes 2 of us. And Gordon seems kind of freaked out by it.
Which is why I'm starting to suspect that these are all minors, and they might not know themselves that that's who they were because of all the amnesia drugs that Bragg is giving them. The sounds that they're hearing, maybe it's from their memory as when they're mining for ore or whatever they were doing. And that's why it's familiar to both of them.
We look at a mug and see another flashback. Abe walks into our cell, and I think he says, Looky, looky, chicken cookie?
Yeah.
Well, looky, chicken cookie.
Is that a thing?
It also might just be Abe being weird.
He just says Bragg said the treatment would be kicking in. And that's kind of it. It's kind of a short one.
My note was just that, is this like a procedure in doing some more brainwashing? I'm really locked in on that theory if you haven't noticed. But I don't really understand what's going on. That is this part of normal service of feeding them to make sure they're not hungry? There's this food, but it's actually laced with poison or whatever.
Are they eating chicken cookies? That's what I'm hung up on. What is it?
Oh.
Chicken cookie. But anyway, back to the current time. We hear Abe call for lights out. And this is when we have another nightmare. We see, I think, Gordon at the end of a hall, and he says, right this way. We follow him into a cell where we see him rocking on the bed in a fetal position. And then the door slams behind us. Gordon disappears, only to pop up in the doorway. And is he like Wendigoing? What's happening?
I don't understand if these flashbacks are flashbacks or flash forwards.
I'm confused too. I'm calling these the green tinted ones nightmares because it seems like we're sleeping. We go to sleep when we have them. And then there's like the things that we look at, the white filter, and I think those are memories. But I don't know.
The lack of logical movements and whatever we see makes me feel like they're not memories, they're nightmares or they're predictions of the future.
So I think it's another new day. We wake up again. Things have changed quite a bit this time. There's scratches on the walls. Gordon looks terrible. He says it's been 2 days since they've come. They'll be back for me soon. They will be, right?
And the question is that had it only been 2 days or was it more? And then how long have we been out for? We don't seem like we're struggling, but it looks like Gordon's really struggling. So did something happen to him or did like 2 weeks go by and we were just in a coma?
Gordon looks terrible. And then he scrounges around to find some food. He finds a piece of stale bread, which he rudely does not offer to share with us, which pisses me off. But not as much as him saying,
So got it, Gordo.
Pisses me off. That's just so cringy to me.
Yeah.
Also, we finally crossed the 9th out on the calendar. But he says it's been 2 days. So I feel like we forgot to cross out the 10th, at least. I think it's at least the 11th today. Well, we soon see another flashback. A man is being detained against our cell door. He's looking through it at us and says, "You? Why are you doing this to me?"
I think it's just that person's losing their mind.
Okay, it's a cryptic one. So back in, I am assuming is what is current time, we ask Gordon what he thinks happened, and he responds, "Those sirens go off when a patient gets loose. They had a whole bunch of unruly cases come in recently. Unhinged, really. My bet, one of them. Blackwood staff can handle a loony on the loose, and we're on top of a mountain in the middle of winter. Nobody gets far when it's 40 below. Bragg will sort this out. He always does."
I feel like he kind of changed his tone to Bragg, which makes me wonder what happened. And if only 2 days passed, but he's done a complete 180, then I don't think it's just been 2 days. I think it's been longer than that.
It seems like he just got put in here, but he's talking about people like he's known them longer than that. It's weird. We're still talking to Gordon, and one of the options is, "I think I used to be a doctor here," which I select, but he responds, "That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard."
And this is jumping ahead a bit, but I think we are referred to doctor again later on, and it would make sense that if we're a doctor, we went up against what Bragg was saying. Therefore, Bragg keeps brainwashing us to make sure we don't remember who we are, so we can't fight against him.
Mm-hmm. Soon we hear disturbing noises, and Gordon calls out for help. I think we're not surprised when nobody responds, and then he takes a spoon and tries to dig a brick out of the wall. Gordo's losing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he breaks the spoon, and then he blames it on us, and then he punches us.
He's losing it.
He really is. And then, yeah, we have another nightmare. We walk out of our cell into the test room, I'm calling it, where Bragg was testing on us earlier, and we hear his voice saying, "Come in, you have finally arrived." Then some dead people pop up in the room.
These bodies are just like sprinkled in everywhere, but they're only like at a glimpse. They don't stay there, which is again making me so confused in what this green tinted memory flashback flash forward is. There's a feeling that he's familiar with us, so I'm thinking that it might be a flashback when we're still a doctor, if that's who our identity is.
So we continue on to the morgue, and then we see little Stewie in a, what are those called? The body chutes. What are those?
Morgues or no?
Yeah, but like the actual, what is it?
The
freezer. What
Yeah,
are they called?
No, there's a name for it. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously there is. I can't remember what it is.
Okay, Google.
The cold cabinets.
I guess there's not really a name for it. Mortuary fridge. Dead body storage.
Morgue freezers.
I'm not finding a name that I feel like I've heard before. I don't know.
A chamber.
Maybe there's not a word for it, but anyway. In one of those, we see little Stewie, but then he's quickly replaced by a body that's bent all weird. And then we just keep going. We see a rabbit and a wolf at the end of the hall. The rabbit goes right and the wolf goes left. And yeah, of course I follow the wolf because of our old friend Wolfie. But it leads to a room where we get attacked by a bunch of eyes.
I don't like that.
We wake up again in our cell, a new day. There's now a broken spot on our window, and it sounds like Gordon is having a nightmare.
Gordon's not having a nightmare. He's ready to change to be a Wendigo. I don't know where he got the body to eat, but
He's saying, like, "I'm not worthy." We wake him up, and he apologizes for hitting us. It sounds like we've been trapped in here for a week.
well, also there's scribbles like scratched out on the calendar. So
Mm-hmm.
on one hand, that we're able to tell if it's flashbacks or flash forwards or present day based off of how clean the calendar is. But also, what pushed them over the edge? How long have they been there when they're just mad at tracking and they decide to just scratch everything off on the calendar?
Gordon then starts rambling about one little cave-in. 30 men down in that mine for weeks. How's that even possible? Only 12 made it out of the frying pan. ... Leave it to Bragg to hear opportunity knock.
I don't know if this means that we're one of the people who made it out of the cave, or is he saying that there's a new group of people who are coming into the sanatorium?
They're already here, is what he's saying. Is that he said they had a bunch of unruly cases, so they're already here.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not we were a part of that, I don't know. We ask him about the mine, and Gordon's about to spill the beans to us. He says, I'm not really and then a crash outside in the hallway interrupts him.
I don't know how true anything that's going to be coming out of his mouth. That maybe if he's going to say, like, I'm not really a human, like, I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
It's not the
moving
reaction
on.
you're expecting.
So when he hears the noises, Gordon yells for help only to be met by crashing and hissing at the door. And he says it's one of the miners, isn't it?
I'm confused because why would miners be hissing and like growling like that?
Because they're a Wendigo?
Are we sure that they already became Wendigos at this point, or?
It sounds like a Wendigo
Okay.
to me.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen anything.
Okay. I'm just like thinking the timeline of them eating
the
them.
timeline is really confusing in this game.
Yeah, because I feel like they would turn into Wendigos relatively quickly. But from what I'm seeing from Gordon, it seems like they've been in here a really long time. And so I feel like there's that disconnect. But I'm also not sure how much Bragg has been doing his experiments on him. That maybe if it's truly a short amount of time, like a lot's happening in one day and they're sleeping multiple times, like those are naps and not full days. And that's why when Gordon says that it's been like 2 days, it was only maybe truly a day. And that's why the miners are becoming Wendigos, even though they're rescued and moved in here relatively short, because this is all compact into 2-3 days.
It is confusing, but I think the miners were trapped for weeks, and they probably, I would hope, held off as long as they could. So they probably ate people not too long before they were rescued, and then however long the transformation takes started happening more so in the sanatorium. By the time the alarm goes off and people stop coming for us, I think that's only a day or two. I think it could have been a week since nobody's come by, but I think the Wendigos already Wendigoed before that point. Where are we? Oh, he said it's one of the miners, isn't it? So then, after that traumatic event, we just decide, time for a nap. So, we wake up. Gordon's presenting us with a cockroach.
He has bloody knuckles, too. So, back to the timeline issue that I'm struggling with. Is this the bloody knuckles from punching us in the face? Because this is still quite red. It's not like dried up blood. If this is from him punching us, that confirms that not a lot of time has gone by since he smacked us. Unless he recently started punching the walls, and then that's like unrelated.
Yeah. His appearance and his excitement in presenting to me this cockroach really made me uncomfortable. And so I decided, I don't want that cockroach, man. No thanks. So Gordon eats it and says it's delicious, which I don't believe you.
But it also is a great indicator that Gordon's getting closer and closer to being hungry and willing to eat humans.
Oh, yeah. He's completely losing it. And he's sketching me out so much at this point that I was really hoping the game would let me pick up that spoon on the floor and use it to arm myself. But no such luck. Then Gordon says to us, we need to talk.
I hope you can understand that none of this was supposed to happen. I didn't want it to happen, but it is my fault. And if you can, please, forgive me. You believe me, right?
I don't know what's going on. Why is he saying this? So I kind of going back earlier to saying that I'm not really a ... at this point, then I can make the connection saying that he pretended to be something that he isn't, which is the reason why they're here. I don't know. I'm confused.
It's confusing, especially because Gordon seems to be losing his mind.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, he decides to go to sleep again. The cell door opens, and it seems now like we're in one of those nightmares again. There's cockroaches everywhere. We head out, we see quick visions of Gordon every so often, people talking. Further on, we hear some sort of hissing coming from a closet. It seems to be the same closet we were in our memories, and inside of it is a faceless man.
Plenty of questions. I guess the theme is that Kathy is confused, one. But two, it's why are we getting all these faces if potentially we're not going to come back to knowing these people?
Mm-hmm.
I can't distinguish between who are minors, who are not, who are important characters, who are not. It's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so speaking of, we'll soon learn that that man that was being detained up against our cell and said, "Why are you doing this to me?" We'll soon learn that that is William Bates, who was like the case study in the documentations we found in Until Dawn
Mm-hmm.
of the miners. So we know he's a miner, and we know he transforms into a Wendigo.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in this nightmare currently, there's a voice that really sounds like Bates, and he says, "You have no right." And then we hear Abe say, "Vic, I could use a little help here." So it seems like they're definitely testing on him. And maybe we overheard that, and that's what we're remembering.
And jumping ahead, is he also the same guy who ends up getting strapped down where the doctor's hovering over him and saying something? This is the same him. He must be the first person who becomes a Wendigo in this facility.
Patient 0.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the end of the nightmare, we enter back into our cell where we see Abe and Victoria wheeling out a body bag, I think. And Abe says, "Let's just get out of here." And then we kind of hear what sounds like a Wendigo after that. Scene 7.
Mm-hmm.
In another apparent nightmare, I think we hear Gordon, but we don't see him. And then we leave the cell after the door swings open. And on the way out, we see the calendar reads February 4th. So now we've gone back a few days. So is this a nightmare, or is it a memory, or is it a combination?
Or is
More
someone
confused.
purposely tripping us up by changing the calendars and giving us wrong information?
And then in a cell, we see Bragg, who says,
"You do understand I want what's best for you."
Does he?
"I'm not so sure." And then I think we go back into our own cell, but everything is now on the ceiling, including Gordon, who then vanishes with a crash. And then we get jump scared by, I think, a Wendigo, or a man well on his way to becoming a Wendigo. We're led to a window where it appears something is thrown through it, which explains the broken window in our cell that we saw earlier.
Who's out there throwing things inside?
And what and why? And when? February 4th, maybe? We now come to in our room with a flashlight. The door has been busted open, so we head out. I don't know about you, but now it seems to me that maybe whatever they were doing to us has worn off, because we seem to be much more normal now.
My theory was the Bragg is dead, like everyone's dead, and we somehow managed to not get killed by a Wendigo yet, and we managed to not eat humans yet, so we're still human and not at a risk of becoming a Wendigo quite yet. And that's when we start exploring and having access to human flesh. That's my theory, is that everyone's dead and we've been maybe in our cell for 2 weeks or so.
That's similar to my theory, which I kind of feel like it's either the tests that they're doing or it's the spirit of the Wendigo, because we're starving. And I think what we see in the nightmares is the Wendigo spirit like trying to find an inn, you know? It's messing with us, it's harassing us.
It's
and
like
then
the wall riders.
Yeah. And so then when we're wandering around in our nightmares, my question is, how long has the door to our cell been open?
Oh.
I think it's been open for a while, and I think when we're wandering around in these nightmares, we're actually wandering around in real time, and that's why we occasionally see flashes of like the dead bodies, and then we see memories of things that we've seen before about like Abe and Victoria wheeling someone out, that kind of thing. And so I think it's a combination of we're walking, but we're walking in a state where we're being affected by the spirit of the Wendigo, and we're seeing hallucinations mixed with memories. The broken window is like the biggest piece of proof for this, because we see on the 9th that the window's broken. And then we have a flashback nightmare, whatever it is, for what happened on the 4th, and we see how the window broke. And then we also have the miner saying it comes at night. So does the spirit of the Wendigo come at night to torment people? There's issues with it, with the theory.
I think it's a good theory. It makes me confused on how to formulate my own theory. At the same time, I'm still leaning towards the green lights being a way to predict the future.
And it's a work in progress theory right now.
Mhm.
And after we finish the game, I think we'll have more to go on.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like right now we're not being tormented. We're not being tested on. It seems like we're more or less normal at this moment in the game. But we start walking, and I think we see Abe dead.
Mm-hmm.
So long, Abe. Next to Abe, we find the same closet from the flashbacks, and the calendar on the wall here now says February 1st, 1952. And when we look at it, we flash back to the same memory from the start of the game. Continuing on, we then find the cell that's labeled William Bates. And this is when we see the flashback where you can't really see it in the gameplay, but when I was in VR, I was looking down at myself, and I am dressed as a doctor.
Oh.
And Bates tells us through the bars,
"We were down there for weeks, starving. Now he's put us in these cages. You gotta help me, Doc!"
so now we know why he recognized us.
And we can guarantee we were a doctor.
We soon find a radio, which when turned on reveals it's February 26th. So there's a lot of missing time here.
Yeah. Which explains why we're hungry, or why people were hungry.
Yes. Ton of missing time. And I feel like the radio we can trust more than anything else we've seen so far. And then we soon find a clipboard which unlocks another memory and shows Victoria approaching us saying, "Doctor? Abe?" Hold on to that. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
As we continue through the sanatorium, we see more dead people, including Victoria, who jump scares us. And then another flashback indicating Bragg was starving the miners. We see him standing over Bates, who's saying he's asking for food. He's saying he's starving. And we hear a doctor that we can't see saying, "Can't we just give him something to chew on?" And Bragg says, "It's out of the question. It would undermine the veracity of the tests."
On one hand, I feel like now, because of this scene, are we seeing things in like third person? Like the person who asked, "Can we feed him?" is actually us. Why is Bragg starving them? Like, does he know something about humans becoming Wendigos when they're starved and they eat human flesh? How does Bragg know to starve them, and what's his goal with starving them?
We know from one of the documents from Until Dawn that when the miners arrived, they were surprised at their strength and their health. One of the notes is they should be dead. So I think Bragg sees like they were starving, but they don't appear to be starving. Let's do tests, and maybe that includes continuing to starve them. Okay, well, to finish out this part, we're soon jump scared by, I think, a nurse. His name is David. And then we head on together. And there ends the gameplay.
I appreciate anyone who listens to this episode and bears with me, because my brain is still a mess. Because it kind of makes sense, but I'm more confused than ever.
Yeah. We'll go through it. We should have time to discuss at the end of the next episode. Sort of a little mock summary at the end of part 2. So should we save our questions for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Well, watch part 2, and we'll talk about it tomorrow on Christmas Day, scary Christmas Day.
Sounds good. I'm gonna call it Audacity on 1, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to send in any questions, comments, or game suggestions. You can find all our contact info on our website, replayreviewspod.com, or contact us directly through our site.
Did we completely miss something? Are we way off the mark? Or you just want us to take a deeper look at anything from the game? We'll tackle any topics you all want to hear in our season wrap-up episode.
We also have a Reddit where we discuss anything we're curious about. Go take a look and let us know what you're thinking. Our theme music is Condemned by Eggy Toast. They'll play you out, and we'll be back next week.